Today we're going to talk about Machineries of Empire, the trilogy that I might love the most in sci-fi ever. I really love it. We have it here, Nine Fox Gambit to Revenant Gun, short story collection. Look at the covers. They're gorgeous. They're amazing. I don't even know which one's my favorite. Like, they're so vibrant. But what's in the pages? Should you read it? Obviously, I'm biased. I want everyone to read it and potentially fall in love with it like I did. But it's definitely a series that has pros and cons. For me, the pros vastly outweigh the cons, or some of my pros could be someone else's cons. So let's get into it. Let's discuss this series and see if you should be putting it on your TBR. So what is this trilogy about at its core? At its core, it's about Captain Charis, and she is basically thrown into this situation where she has to save the day, and on the way kind of discovers within her this need for reform, this need to find her own agency, and it kind of sets off a domino effect of changes that progresses through the series. And I don't really want to spoil more than that, not that any of that was a spoiler, but it's basically military science fiction, space opera. You're learning about this regime, this empire, this system, and you're watching things fall into place or fall out of place. You're watching it all play out, this moment in history for this region of space, and basically, specifically through the lens of Captain Kel Karras. And I love this story. My favorite thing about it, the thing that made me fall in love with it, is the world building. This is some of the most imaginative sci-fi that I've ever read. It is definitely hard sci-fi, but even now I don't really understand it. But it's not about understanding the mechanisms or the whys. It's just about seeing it, seeing the imagination of Yoon Ha Lee and how he chose to use mathematics as the center of this world and how its technology works in fantastical ways. And you get thrown into it. And I think that's possibly a con for some people, is the execution of this imaginative, vivid world it's very, very tricky. So we start off the first chapter and you're introduced to like 20 concepts that maybe are relatable to words we've heard today, but the context clues aren't even that strong enough to help you put it together. It's very much you just get thrown into the deep end and you have to tread water before you learn how to swim. Now that's very much more in the first book than the rest of the series, but if you don't like to puzzle things together, if you want a little bit more hand-holding in your world building, this is probably a turnoff. But I do think that if you trust Yoon Ha Lee, you will get there, and it will make it such a rewarding reread experience. It is so cool. But if you read it and you're just like, oh my gosh, this is too intense, I don't know what's happening, I can't even enjoy myself, I do have that world building video. I did after I read Nine Fox, so it's only has discussions on the world building based off what I knew after finishing Nine Fox Gambit. I have a video for that. It doesn't spoil the plot, it doesn't spoil the rest of the series because I hadn't read it yet. And so if you just need a little bit of a beginner's guide to the world of Machineries of Empire, I do have that. But I'm not going to talk about the specifics here, because for me, the discovery of this world and the factions and the species and how it all played together was one of my favorite parts. Like if you had to list the things I loved most, discovering this world was at the top of it. Another thing I love, probably neck and neck, if not maybe the second, I don't know, it's hard to tell, the characters. They're so diverse. There's such a wide array of characters. And just in this world, the variety of people you will meet on this journey is just astounding. But they're also hysterical. Yoon Ha Lee is hysterical, and I'll talk about that a bit more in a bit, but also Charis and Jadao. I can't go into them in too much depth because I don't want to spoil any of the journey, but I love them. Charis is someone from a different culture who joins the Kel, who are this faction about loyalty, but she has this affinity for math, which meant she probably should have been in a different faction. And it's just funny seeing that like little seed of rebellion in her, but she's also still very much a Kel. She very much follows the rule, and seeing her in the situation of this empire and seeing how she progresses, fascinating. And Jadao. Oh my goodness, Jadao. He basically is this being out of time, and he gets to attach to people, like they're basically called anchors, and he gets to basically be a voice of reason as like a strategist, but he's also this mad general with this crazy past, and like the things he's done are kind of evil and bad, but he's my favorite. I love him. And maybe he is a psychotic mass murderer. It's hard to say, really, it's hard to say, but I love him. And the way him and Charis interact, the way you learn things about both of them, I love those characters so much. And they're not even always the main characters in each book, which is a con for me, but I think a pro for a lot of people, not because I don't like them, but I think people like how the cast grows, and I do like some of the characters. But Nine Fox Gambit, mainly Charis Jadao. Raven Stratagem, you still have characters we've met in the first book, but you get to know more people, and I wasn't prepared for that. I wanted to stay with the characters we had ended Nine Fox Gambit with, but we get more people added in, and you kind of need to, because you need to expand the universe through more people's eyes, and they are funny, and they are great, so I don't regret it, and I think on reread I will love it more, but I wasn't prepared for that. And then get to this book, we get even more new characters, but I love them so much, because at that point I was invested in meeting new characters, and there's a thing that's done in Revenant Gun. Oh, it's good. This one's my favorite. This is the best finale to a series that I've read in a very long time. Maybe since The Stone Sky. Like, it's so good. It's so cathartic. Oh, but this isn't me discussing about Revenant Gun. I have a wrap-up for that, so I really love the characters, and you get to meet a lot of them. Like, I would say the main characters are Charis and Jadao, but honestly, they don't get a lot of point of view page time all the time, sort of thing. And it's complicated, and I can't really go into it more because it is complicated, and I don't want to spoil the trajectory of the plot for you. It's just a fascinating series. It's just crazy. And let's get into the authorial voice, because I feel like this was a thing I didn't know, and it's something I try to highlight when I talk about it, but I might just like bury it under my other loves of it. Yoon-Ha Lee is hysterical. His sense of humor is top-notch, amazing. So sarcastic, so witty, so on the nose. I loved it so much. Every book, I laughed or chuckled a little bit. Even though there are huge stakes, there are huge things at stakes, huge things happening. This is still a serious military sci-fi discussing very important themes. But it's also hysterical, and the humor only increases. Especially if you finish this and you like it, you have to read the short story collection. There are author's notes after each story. They are hysterical. Oh my god, I died after each and every one of them. And you learn so much about how much of Yoon-Ha Lee went into each character and how they were inspired for the world. And one thing I thought was super interesting is, I'm trying to remember the word for it, but there's a word for people who can't visually see in their head. And I learned that that's what Yoon-Ha Lee has. I'm blanking on the name. Aphantasia. So Yoon-Ha Lee has aphantasia. And I have a little bit of aphantasia, I'm pretty sure. At least I don't see things when I read. But this is some of the most vibrant stuff I've ever imagined. Like, it's so cool. So I find that fascinating that an author with a similar thing to me was actually able to get me to connect to the visual complexities of his world. His authorial voice is top-notch for me. And let's talk about briefly some of the themes the entire series discusses in case you need a little bit more convincing from me why you should read it. Because like I said, it's not just a fun time. It is a fun time, but it also has a lot to say. And it has a lot to say about corruption in government, stagnant empires, agency, personal and otherwise. This is laced throughout the book. You can't escape these important themes, and I really appreciate every time I was reading it, I would notice, oh, this was such a good choice to use this character for this moment, because it really shows this dichotomy, or it really emphasizes this part. And I can't go into it into detail because, like I said, half the fun is discovering the world, so I can't tell you what parts of the world play into these themes. But it's really great. So I think if any of this sounds like it could be your cup of tea, you should pick it up because it's worth it. And like, I would say that most people, the trajectory is this one's their least favorite, and then it's kind of 50-50 which one of these two is their favorite. For me, It goes Revenant Gun, Nine Fox Gambit, Raven Stratagem, but like I said, most of that is I wasn't prepared for the point of views we got. And if you read the whole thing and you're like, do I need to read the short story collection? I normally don't read short stories. You need to get that just for the ending novella, is what I'll say. It's like a third of that book. It's normally on sale for like $4 to $6 on Amazon. You trust me, if you are invested in this story and if one of your reasons for loving it is Cheris and Jadao, you're gonna want to read that novella. Is really what I'm going to say. Like, if the characters are why you're there, you just get more about the characters, their pasts, and things that you don't see on these pages. And yeah, I don't know if I have any more gushing things to say. I feel like I've given enough warning for things. Like I said, it's very much one of those books where you are watching people experience life. It's not a narrative style that is trying to help you see it. It's like you're given a little window, then you're looking into a story. And that's what's happening. So if that's something you want to try out and you also want to laugh and you don't mind military space opera, you should try it out. And if you made it this far, put a spaceship in the description so I can know you're here. And like if you like it, subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.